Hi, I'm Ardit and I'm excited to welcome you to this course where you will be exploring the power of ChatGPT to build Python automations and apps with zero coding experience. In this course, we'll start by getting you familiar with ChatGPT, a powerful AI which can write Python code for you. Then I'll show you how to install a tool to execute the Python code that ChatGPT will generate for you so that you can get the desired results, the output of your programs. So you'll be equipped to run any Python program in your computer. And then we'll dive into how to query ChatGPT to write Python scripts and automate things like generating hundreds of files at once, modifying existing files, and other batch operations on different types of files. Then we'll use ChatGPT to write Python programs that analyze and visualize data, especially focusing on processing large amounts of data and files, which can be hard to do in programs such as Microsoft Excel. After that, you learn how to build web apps and then desktop GUI apps. So basically, you learn how to build all the popular types of programs using ChatGPT and Python. With 5 comprehensive sections, you'll get hands-on experience building real programs, and by the end of the course, you'll have the skills to write accurate queries for ChatGPT to communicate accurately with ChatGPT so that you can get working Python applications out of ChatGPT. Whether you're a student, a professional, or someone with an interest in automating things and creating apps, this course will show you the power of ChatGPT in the field of programming. So, ready to turn your ideas into programs? Let's get started. I'll see you in the next video. Hey, welcome back. In this video, I'll show you how to set up the tools you need to build apps without any coding experience. The first tool is going to be ChatGPT, which is going to generate code for us, and the second tool is where we run that code to create applications. The second tool is going to be Thonny. So let's start with the first tool, ChatGPT. ChatGPT is a web app, in other words, a website. That means you don't need to install anything in your computer. All you need to do is go to chat.openai.com. So load that web page, and that should take you to the ChatGPT interface, which I'll show you in just a bit. So you should see the interface of ChatGPT if you are already logged in. If you are not logged in, then you will see this view when you visit chat.openai.com. If you don't have an account yet, you need to go to the sign up button and just follow the instructions on creating an account with ChatGPT. If you have an account already but you are not logged in, you should go to the login button. So I do have an account, therefore I'll go to the login button. So login. That's my Gmail address I created for this course. Continue, and that should log you in to ChatGPT. So that's the ChatGPT interface. Now please open a new tab on your browser. Alright, now that we have ChatGPT set up, we need to install the second tool, and that is Thonny. So you want to go to thonny.org. So Thonny with N.org. So visit that website, and that should take you to this page. It should look more or less like this. The page on your computer may look different, so some things may change, but you should be able to locate the download section, which is somewhere in here. So now there are versions for Windows computers, Mac computers, and Linux computers. So if you are on a Windows, you should hover your cursor over the Windows tab, and then you want to pick one of these. Usually you want to go with the first one. So most of Windows computers nowadays are 64-bit, so you want to go with that installer. If you are not sure whether you have a 64-bit or 32-bit computer, you can download the first one, and then if you get problems with the installation, then you can download the second one and try whatever works. For Mac computers, please download that. For Linux computers, you need to run this on the terminal. So I'm on a Windows computer, so I'll download this first file. That should download the executable file, so you can click this to install it. And then you should be taken through the installation process. You can select the first option, install for me only. So click there, go to next, 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 next. And it's a good idea to create a desktop icon. So I'll press on that checkbox, even though that is not a requirement. So press on next and then install. My installation was successful, so I can press on finish. Then it's a good idea to open the application just to try if it works, if it's installed correctly. So search among your programs for Thonny with double N. So that's my Thonny. You can also find it in the desktop. So in here, if you click that checkbox during the installation, so the checkbox that allows Thonny to stay in the desktop as a shortcut. So either way, you should see this window in the beginning. So I'll go for English and standard settings. So I'll press on let's go, and this should open up Thonny. So you can press on that maximize button to maximize Thonny. And yeah, if you see this view, that means Thonny was successfully installed, and now we're ready to build our first application. So we'll do that in the next video. I'll see you there. Hey, welcome to the first practical video where we'll do something with ChatGPT. We'll build a program. So I want you to open ChatGPT and Thonny. So for ChatGPT, you need to go to chat.openai.com, load that, and then open Thonny. So you can find Thonny either as a shortcut in your desktop or among your programs. I prefer to use the desktop shortcut to open Thonny. And you should see something like this. So what we want to do now is, as an example, we want to create 100 text files. Now this is just an example, so you can change this query, you can adjust it with your needs, and we'll have dozens other examples. But this is just a demo, so let's focus on actually getting this task done. So the task is, we want to create 100 text files, right? Each text file should contain a different boy's name inside. So let's say for some reason you wanted to create 100 text files, but you don't want to do that manually on your computer, right? You don't want to right click, create a new text file, then create another one, or copy paste and so on. It becomes very boring and annoying. So let me show you how to automate that. So this is like a blueprint I'll give, and you can do the same with other types of programs. So each text file should contain a different boy's name inside, right? And then we say, write me a Python script for that, dot, and execute. So press enter to execute, and then wait for a response from ChatGPT. If you get an error, try to reload the page. Sometimes you get errors, so try to push this button or just click here and press enter to reload the page. In my case, it's working, so I don't have to do this again, but if so, you need to reload the page and then write the query again. So this is the answer of ChatGPT. It normally should consist of an explanation what ChatGPT is about to do, and then it gives you the code. So this is the code that it is giving to me. Your code should be slightly different, right? So don't expect your code to be identical with mine. The answers that ChatGPT provides change slightly depending on when you're writing them, or perhaps you did something different, some wording was different in your case. However, the core of the answer, the program, should behave the same generally. So what ChatGPT is doing now is writing Python code. So when ChatGPT finishes writing this code, we'll copy this code and we will build a program out of that. We will execute this code to generate the program output. To copy the code, you can do it here, but don't press it yet. So this button, copy code, or you can select it. But you first want that ChatGPT finishes with the writing. So it's still writing in my case. You will know when ChatGPT completed the code, when this disappears. So currently there's a stop generating button here, which implies that ChatGPT is still generating the answer, the response. So don't copy the code yet, because you'll be copying uncompleted code. So after this code, ChatGPT will also write an explanation what this code does. You don't have to read this, so if you are learning coding, then it might be meaningful and useful to read the explanation of the code. But I assume you don't want to go into the details of the code, you just want to create programs, and that's what this course is about. So without knowing any code, you want to be able to build complete programs. So you don't have to read the explanation here. In that case, since ChatGPT finished with the block of code, you can either wait for the answer to complete, but it's also fine to just copy the code now by pressing that button. Right, so what I've just done is I copied the code on my clipboard so I can paste that code somewhere. So I'll go to Thonny. This is where we will paste that code and output the actual program, create the program. So normally your Thonny should look something like this, and there might be an open file already with the untitled tab here, but you can close that. I would suggest you to just close that. And so the first thing you want to do is you want to go to View and go to Files. Right. So what that will do is it will show you your file explorer, so the folders and files you have on your computer. So this is just like the Windows File Explorer or the Mac Finder, and it's currently pointing to my AS folder, which is inside users, inside my C drive. So that's the current path of this view here. So I have these folders inside the AS folder. Now, what I want to do is I want to create an empty folder where I'll place all my files that I'll build throughout this course. So I suggest you to do the same. I'll create that folder inside the AS folder, right? If you want to do it in another folder, so for example, under documents, you want to double click over documents like this, and that should point you to the new directory documents. So now we are inside the documents folder on my computer. So if you want to go back, you click one of these folders. So I'll go back to AS and create a new directory. To create a new directory, you need to find like an empty area here and right click and then go to new directory. So I'll write ChatGPT course and press OK. So a new ChatGPT course was created, this folder here. Now what you want to do is you want to double click that folder, and then you are inside that newly created folder, ChatGPT course. Right? Now inside this folder we want to create a new file. So right click somewhere in here, go to new file, type in a name for the new file, for example, lecture1.py. Now the first part, lecture1, can be anything, so feel free to use your own naming for this, but the second part, .py, is mandatory, so please use .py as the extension and press OK. So this new empty file will be created in here, and then in this empty file you want to right click and paste the content we copied from ChatGPT. So that is the code that we copied from here. And then you want to press Ctrl S or Command S if you are on Mac, or you can go to File and Save. So save that, And when you do that, you'll see the file in this current directory. So in my case, it's inside ChatGPT course, this folder. So what we've just done so far is we created a new Python program. We haven't executed the program yet, so we haven't seen the output yet, what this program does. But we do have the program already, and that is stored inside lecture1.py inside the ChatGPT course folder, which is inside AS, which is part of users and part of C. So if I open my file explorer, so here is my C drive, and if I go to users, right, users, and then if I go to AS, and then if I go to ChatGPT course, you'll see lecture1.py in that folder. The icon might be different in your computer, so don't worry about the icon, but that's the actual file. So it reflects that. That's just something that I wanted to show you. You don't have to open your file explorer, so just to demonstrate you what's going on. Basically, you want to work on Thonny, this program. You normally won't have to open your file explorer on Windows or Mac, wherever you are working. So Thonny is all-inclusive. Right, so now let's try to run this program and see what output we get. To run a program, you want to go to this icon. You see the green button with a triangle inside. So you want to press that, or alternatively, you can go to run and then go to this run current script, or you can also press F5 or whatever shortcut you see here. In my case, it is F5. So either way, I prefer to use this button, run that. And the program finished executing, and I'll show you where the output actually is in just a bit, but you know that the program finished executing when you see this line here in the shell area. You see shell, and then you see these arrows. If you see these arrows here, that means the program finished executing. Now, where is the output? Well, to see the output, we want to refresh this directory here. To do that, you want to go back to the upper folder. In my case, it is AS, so click on AS, and then click back again, so double click on ChatGPT course or whatever folder you are using. So double click there, and now this view is refreshed and you see boy names here. So boy names is a folder in the same directory with lecture1.py. And also, just for the sake of curiosity, if you go to your file explorer and you go to your C drive, users again, AS and ChatGPT course, you'll see that the folder is also there. Right, so now you can double click inside that folder and you'll see all the files generated. So 100 files. Right, starting from file 1. The sorting of these files is based on alphabetic order, so that's why we see 1 and then 10 and then 100 and so on. Anyway, that's another thing, but if you click any of these files, so for example file 2.txt, that file will open here in Thonny and you'll see the content of that file. So Benjamin, file 20, Finn, 21, Tyler, and so on. The content in your case, of course, will be different, so maybe file 21 has John inside, another file has another name, and so on. So the names are randomly assigned to each of these files. Of course, you can also open those files from your file explorer, so boy names, you have all these files here, right? It's the same set of files. To go back to the ChatGPT course directory, you just click here. That's the code and that is the output. So the output was boy names. Perhaps in your case it generated the files directly in this ChatGPT course directory. That could be the case also. As I mentioned, the code generated in your case could be slightly different than mine, so be aware of that. But in my case, the program created a boy names file. Now, one very important tip is you don't want to mess up with this Python file, with the lecture1.py file, right? So that was how to create a program with ChatGPT and Python. So that was Python code that was generated by ChatGPT. Now this was just an example. We'll have many more exciting examples throughout the course, and I'll give you tricks and tips on how to make the best use of ChatGPT, and we'll not only create programs, but you'll learn how to change those programs as well, how to adjust them, optimize them, because I understand that this program might not be exactly what you're looking for. So you may want to follow up with ChatGPT to ask it more questions, to give you some changes, to make some changes in the program, and then you execute that again. So that's a lot of cool things that you can do with ChatGPT and Python. This is really an exciting area of computer programming. So everyone can actually make use of programming through the help of ChatGPT. So I hope you're excited as much as I am, and I'll see you in the next videos with more examples. See you there. Hey, welcome back. In this video, I'll give you an introduction to the IDE we are using. This program here. What is an IDE? An IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. In our case, the IDE is called Thonny. So Thonny is this thing here where we write and run programs. So in the previous video, that's what we did, right? We wrote this program. Well, we wrote it through ChatGPT, but that's still writing a program. And then we ran that program, we executed the program. So when you say running a program and executing a program is the same thing. So we executed the program using that button. So you can do all that in an IDE in this place here, right? Now I want to give you an introduction, to give you a walkthrough on Thonny, the main features, so that you are sure you're using it the correct way. There are three main areas of Thonny. The file explorer here on the left, which you can show or hide using the view files menu. So you can uncheck that and then you can go back to view files to show that again. So that's the file explorer. You see the file explorer always points to a particular folder, right? Currently it's ChatGPT course, in my case, this folder. And then we have the file editor area in here. So when you double click a file, which could be a .py file that contains Python code or a text file, then the content of that file will show here. So make sure not to edit the Python code unless you know what you're doing. And then if you have double-clicked multiple files, for example, this and that, all those files will open here as tabs. So you can click any of them and you can see the contents of each file. And then we have the other area, the shell in here. When you run a Python file, for example, we ran this file previously to generate the output, then Thonny sends this text here. So basically think of this shell as the area where you see these notifications about what's going on. So this, for example, means that Thonny just ran your program, so run lecture1.py, and then this line here means Thonny finished running the program and then you're ready to see the output. Now this type of program created some external files, so some text files. It generated some text files as output, but some programs may generate text. I'll show you an example of that right now. Let's create another program which generates text. This will be a very simple program which you don't have to use ChatGPT to generate that program. You can just write that program right away. So to do that, you need to make sure you are inside the ChatGPT course folder. So click there to go back to ChatGPT course. So this is the same directory where lecture1.py is located. So we want to right click over the empty area and then go to new file. Write a name for this, for example, lecture2, and make sure to have a .py extension, right? And then type in print opening and closing parentheses, and then move the cursor inside the parentheses and write 2 double quotes. So 1, 2, and inside the double quotes just say hello. And then let's run this file. Let's execute this program to see the output. To execute this program, you can use this button, Run Current Script, or press F5. I showed that to you already, but be careful here. So if you want to execute lecture2.py, then you want to make sure that lecture2.py is the currently opened file in the file editor here, right? Because if you have opened lecture1.py, for example, and you press that button, that will execute lecture1.py and not lecture2.py. So make sure that this file is opened here and then press that button. Now, you don't have to save the file actually, so if you want, you can press Ctrl S to save the code we just wrote, but that's not necessary because when you press that button will first save the file and then it will execute it. So I'll just press that and then you'll see the output here, hello, and then this empty arrows, which means the program finished executing. So that's the output in this case. So in this program there were no files generated, this was just a simple program just to print out hello. So it's completely useless, but I just wanted to make a point that you can also see output sometimes in this area, in the shell. Now this was just hello, but sometimes you may have more useful programs such as calculating miles out of kilometers, so doing conversions, converting from USD to euros and so on. So in such cases you'll see the output in here for those programs. So that's how you create multiple files. So always right click here, go to new file, and if you want to create new directories, go to new directory. Always make sure you are aware of where this folder is located. And before we close this video, I want to show you another feature of Thonny. So if you go to view, you'll see we have files and shell already checked. There are some other features which you can check, but you'll not actually need these. So these are for more seasoned programmers who actually type in code and they want to understand what's going on in the code. For you, you only want to create programs that work, that automate things. So you don't need this, but there's a cool feature you may need, and that's nodes. So if you check nodes, you'll see this view here. So this nodes here stays here even if you close this. So let's say this is my first node, right? 1, and then I close Thonny, and then tomorrow I work with Thonny again and the nodes will still be there. So that's a section which you can use just to take notes while you're learning. So perhaps you want to organize the notes with like sections, like section 1 of the course getting started. And perhaps you want to say lecture 1 and the things you learned with bullet points. So it's a minimal interface to take notes, but that's actually sometimes a good thing because it keeps you focused on actually writing the code instead of getting lost with features of a note-taking app. Anyway, that's just optional, so feel free to use notes or not. I'll just close it to keep the view here more clean for you, and that was about Thonny. In the next video, I'll show you how to create good queries to ask ChatGPT. So queries about creating Python programs. I'll see you there. Hey, welcome to another video. So far we looked at how to query ChatGPT to make programs for us, and you saw how to run that program in Thonny. Now I want to go back to the query and explain you how to write a good query in ChatGPT to get good answers when it comes to creating programs, Python programs with ChatGPT. So let's start. The very first thing I want you to understand is that you should talk to ChatGPT as it was a very experienced programmer. So whenever you place the cursor in the text box here, think as you are chatting with a very experienced programmer who is very patient to listen to your query, to what you want to build, and who knows everything about programming. And then all you have to do is just communicate your wishes clearly. So how do you make a clear query to your friend, to your programmer friend, to ChatGPT? Let me show that to you. So let's take the example we wrote earlier in the demo video, which was this one here. I want to create 100 text files. Each text file should contain a different boy's name inside. Write me a Python script for that. A good query is made of 3 parts. That's one part, that's another part, and that's the third part. The first part is where you declare what you want to build. So this is usually one sentence. So can you describe what you want to build in one sentence? This is what you do here. So that's, I want to create 100 text files, right? But then you want to give the details to your program. And the details can be in one or more sentences. So in our case, the details were each text file should contain a different boy's name inside. So that sentence adds up to the main description of your program, right? I'll give you another example of another query using this anatomy. So that's the first part, the description of the program in one sentence, the details about the program, which could be one or more sentences, and then the last part is generally one sentence. So you describe what you want to do, you describe what you want to accomplish, but then you want to specify, you want to be specific what you want ChatGPT to do for you. So you say, write me a Python script for that. So this is important. It's important to say Python script. Script can also be program, so you can use script or program. Either way, it's fine. Usually we say script for smaller programs. So programs which do one thing, so they generate some files and that's it. And we use the word program for bigger programs which can do multiple things, like generating files and perhaps having a feature where you upload those files to some remote servers and so on. Anyway, if you use script, you are fine, but either way, it's also fine. So now let's use this anatomy to write another query. So we want to write another query. That means we want to create a new program. So for that, you need to open a new chat. So click over new chat. And then in the text box, we want to write the new query. So anytime you need to create a new program, it's good to write the query in a new chat instead of using the same chat for all the programs. This way you'll keep your programs more organized, your chats more organized. So one chat, one program. Let's suppose you want to create some empty folders. Let's say you want to create 100 empty folders with a particular naming convention. So for that, we'll use the anatomy that I just explained to you. You want to first describe in general, just to let ChatGPT know what you want in general. So I want to create 100 empty folders. And then you give the details in one or more sentences. The folders should be named like 1A, 2A, 3A, up to 100A, right? So that makes it 100 folders. So you'd say, will ChatGPT understand me this? Well, if a human can understand this question, right, then ChatGPT will understand it also. And then I would like to add one more detail. All those folders should be inside a folder named all in quotes. So that is the details of the question. And then I want to say, write me a Python script for that. Press enter and let's wait for the new code. So what I just asked ChatGPT to do is to create a script, a Python script, which when executed, it will create an all folder, a folder named all, and inside that folder, there will be 100 folders named under this series of numbers and ending with a letter. So let's see. So there we go, we got the code. ChatGPT is now generating an explanation on what the code does, but I can copy the code and go to Thonny, create here a new Python file. So right click, new file, lecture 4.py, press enter, paste the code here, and then run the code. Right, I just ran the code and I see these arrows. That means the execution was completed, and I can refresh this directory by going back to AS and then going back to that directory, ChatGPT course. There we go, that's the all folder. If I double click here to enter that folder, we'll see we have 100 folders named under that convention. So 1A up to 100A. Thonny is sorting these alphabetically, but that's another issue. So perhaps if you go to your file explorer where this all folder is located, then you can sort them using that file system features on Windows or Mac or Linux, wherever you are. So that's another point, but we do have 100 empty folders here. So this could be very useful if you're working with files. Perhaps you do some batch operations, you are organizing some data. So instead of creating folders manually on your operating system, on your computer, you just use Python. So I hope you are enjoying these automations, and we have a lot more automations to do, very interesting ones. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. See you. Hey, welcome back. In the previous video, I showed you how to create a good query to ask ChatGPT. In this video, I want to stop a little bit on the Python code that we are getting from ChatGPT. I want to give you a rough introduction to the Python language. You don't really need to know this, but it's just some extra knowledge that will give you some more orientation of what's going on here. Let's start from the query. So we ask ChatGPT a query, and ChatGPT gives us this code. So what is this code that ChatGPT gives us? Well, when we install Thonny, we installed this program that you see here where we write codes and we have this file structure here. But also on the background, we have also installed a Python interpreter. That's also another software which Thonny installs on the background. Now, this Python interpreter is a software designed to understand Python code, Python language. So this here is just a language, and the interpreter is interpreting this language. And then the interpreter translates this code to machine language, another language which the processor, the computer processor, can understand. So your computer processor is getting like this code but in another form, and then the computer processor follows the instructions. For example, in this case, it does create a folder named all with 100 folders inside. So that's how Python works. You write the code, you execute it, and when you execute it, you are sending those instructions to the processor and you get back the output. Now let me go quickly through the Python code just to give you an introduction to what's going on. You don't really need to know this actually, but it doesn't harm to have some knowledge of what's going on. So usually at the top here you'll have one or more import statements. For example, here we have one, import OS. OS is a module and import is what we call a statement. So you are importing that module. Then this one here is a comment. So it's not actually an instruction, it doesn't tell the processor to do anything. This is just a comment, usually for programmers, so you know what's going on in the next line. So this is actual code, os make dir, so this creates a directory named all, and here you explain what this code will do. So ChatGPT is writing all that code for us, and it's also creating some comments, so that's good. And then we have the other comments, so create 100 directories, 1A, 2A, that's also a comment. So it's just for us to know what's going on in the next one line or in the next multiple lines. So this comment is explaining what's going on in the next multiple lines, right? So in these lines, the generation of those 100 folders is happening. So that's all you need to know. You don't need to go through the details of each line, but roughly that's the idea. So if you want to understand some more about the Python code, it's good to read the comments and then you'll know what's going on in the next one or multiple lines. But if you want to get some more explanation about the code, then you want to read the explanation that ChatGPT gives you, right? Which is under the code here. So we ask the query, we get one or two sentences here where ChatGPT is telling us what it's about to do, and then we get the code, and then here you get the explanation of the code. So the OS module is imported to work with directories and file paths and so on. So it does explain then the OS make this directory, so it's referring to this. And then the for loop, which is this one here. So that would be another place where you could learn more about the code. Again, I would like to emphasize that you'll normally not need to know about the codes. You'll probably never need to know about it. So what you need to know is how to be a good communicator with ChatGPT. So even when ChatGPT does not give you the correct code, which does not produce the expected output, even when that happens, you should be able to know how to follow up with more questions to make ChatGPT give you the actual correct code. And I'll teach you how to ask follow-up questions, how to create follow-up queries in the same chat unit. So with that, thanks a lot for following, and I'll see you in the next videos with more examples. Hey, so far you learned how to create queries to get programs produced by ChatGPT. In this video, I'll show you how to follow up to a previous query. So let's create a new query for now. And then we'll ask another question to follow up with this query. You'll understand what this is exactly. So let's create a new program. Let's say I want to create 10 text files. Each text file should have as name the current date. Write me a Python script for that. Press enter. That's the original query. Now we'll get this program, we'll run it, and then we will want to change something from that program. So I'll show you how to ask a follow-up question to ChatGPT. So there we go, that's the program being typed in by ChatGPT. Let's wait a while. So the generation of the code is completed, so I'll just copy the code, go to Thonny, create a new file, lecture5.py, So that's an empty file. It's in my ChatGPT course folder, right? I'll paste the code and run it. So there is my lecture.py file. Let's go back one folder just to refresh and then go back to our folder. So there we go. That's the 10 files, 10 text files, right? So far, so good. So we've got the current date for each file. ChatGPT is adding one number. Otherwise, we would end up with duplicate file names, which is not possible. So ChatGPT is very smart here to add that number after each date. Now, what if we didn't want this format? What if instead of dashes between the year and the month and the day, what if we wanted a dot instead of that? So perhaps in your case, ChatGPT didn't generate a dash between the year, the month and the day, but you got a dot or maybe something else. So you may want to change that to something else. In my case, I want to ask ChatGPT to give me a dot between these items. So in that case, I want to ask a follow-up question, a follow-up query. I want the file names to be in the format year, dot month, dot day, dash n. So n is for the number, right? So, and then you say rewrite the script. So the follow-up query consists of two parts. First, you want to say what you want in relation to the previous query. So you want the file names being the names of the files that were generated in the previous query. So as I mentioned before, ChatGPT has conversational capabilities, so it knows what was going on in this chat. It's like you're talking to a programmer, right? Face to face, and then you ask the first query, and then in the second query, in the second question, you just follow up with the question without having to reiterate what you've been doing so far. Right, so that would be the query. I'll press enter, and ChatGPT should now give me the updated code. So there we go. Here's the updated Python script that creates 10 text files, each named after the current date using the datetime module. This is a module Python is using. Import datetime. Anyway, that's something about Python. We're not concerned about the details of the Python script, but this will be the new format. So let's see. Yeah, the generation of the code is completed. So I'll copy the code, go back here. Now, you want to delete the previous outputs. Whenever you want to rerun a program that was generating some output, some text files or something else, then it's good to delete that output. So you can click over a file, right click and go to move to trash. And you'll have to do that for all the files one by one, because Thony for now doesn't support selection of multiple files. So I've just deleted all those text files, and now I will select this code with my cursor or Ctrl A to select all of it, delete with the delete button, and then Ctrl V to paste the updated code. Then run. And the execution was completed, so then I can go back to AS and then go back to ChatGPT course. And there we go, that's the new format, exactly like I asked for. So the year, dot, the month, dot, the day, a dash, and the number. So that is how you can ask follow-up queries. Always use the same chat where you ask the original question. Otherwise, if you go to another chat, ChatGPT will not know what you were talking about. So you want to express your wish, what you want to do, and then give the command to rewrite the script. That's about follow-up queries. Thanks a lot. I'll see you later. Hey, welcome to a new section. In this section, you're going to learn how to create programs which process existing files. in the previous section, we worked on programs which created new files. So let's begin. I'll invite you to first create a new empty folder. So currently I am in ChatGPT course directory where we placed our files which we worked in the previous section. Now somewhere here in the ChatGPT course directory, I'll right click and go to new directory, and I'll just create a new directory, section 2, without spaces. Section 2, press OK, and then I'll double click section 2. So here is where we will work on the next programs. So in the section 2 folder. And then let's suppose that somewhere in a folder we have these 3 text files. So I have attached these 3 text files in the lecture resources, so please download them. And once you download them, you want to copy all 3. And so in your file system, you want to go to that path. So in my case, it's C users AS ChatGPT, so AS ChatGPT course, and then section 2. So I want to paste these here, right? And so now these files should be here as well. So perhaps you need to go back one folder and then double click on section 2. So you want to have these 3 files in here. So these are text files. Why am I giving these to you? Well, if you click any of these, we have some text here, and this text contains several sentences, but there is a problem. So each sentence starts with a lowercase letter, so it's not a capital letter how it's supposed to be. So we want to create a program which fixes that issue. So the program we will create will capitalize the first letter of each sentence. So we have multiple sentences here. For example, that's the second sentence. It also starts with a lowercase letter, and there is another sentence as well. There we go, all belong to the cuneiform, etc. And then we have the other text files, Hippo, which has the exact same problem. So there is like a systematic error here. All the sentences start with a lowercase. So is the case for reno.txt. So you get the idea. What we want to do now is we want to go to ChatGPT, create a new chat, and we want to ask ChatGPT to create a Python program. And that Python program should be able to capitalize the first letter of each sentence of each file. So here we have only 3 files, right? But that's just an example, so the script, the program will work with any number of files. But 3 is just for the sake of simplicity of teaching you how this is done. So let's go to ChatGPT and show you how to create queries, which create programs that modify existing files. So with the previous programs which generated new files, we started the query something like I want to create 100 text files, right? But when you modify existing files, you first want to describe what you have currently, right? You want to say I have multiple text files. And even better, it would be to specify the name of the directory where these files are. So for that, I would suggest you, it's even better to go to your file system again. So I am inside section 2 here, right? ChatGPT course section 2, and I want to create a new folder here. So new folder. I want to say files, right? Or data, whatever you like to call this. So I'll just say files, and then I'll drag these, I'll select these and place them inside the files folder. So now I have these inside files. And this is section 2, right? So now I can be more specific here. I want to say I have multiple files in a folder named files. So we are explaining to this programmer the input we have and where that input is located. So we have multiple text files. So what and where. What and where. Named files, right? And then you want to explain what each of these text files contain, right? Each text file contains text, and then you start explaining the problem. So, but the sentences start with a lowercase letter. So that is the problem statement. And then you describe what you want to do. So the input up to here, what you have, the problem statement, and then I want to convert the first letter of each sentence of each file, right, to uppercase. So lowercase, small letter, uppercase, capital letters. That's it, and then you know it's write me a Python script for that. That's it. Press enter and wait for the response of ChatGPT. As usual, you will get this description, then the code, so wait for the code to finish. After this, you'll get the description. So copy the code, go to Thony, and this is telling me that badger.txt was moved, so that happened when I placed the files inside this files folder. So you want to press yes here, or no, anyway. Yes, yes. Or you can also close them manually here if you pressed yes. So the idea is that now you should be inside the section2 folder, right? And make sure that inside the section2 folder you have this files folder as well, which has these 3 files, right? Now don't go inside files. So you want to be in section2 folder, and in section2 you want to right click here and you want to go to new file. And let's say lecture1.py and paste the code of ChatGPT in here. So normally you should see this line here, directory is equal to files. So because we told ChatGPT that our folder is named files, so files, then ChatGPT has created a program which now will process the files inside the files folder, so the folder named files, right? So if I press save now, so the file will be displayed in here. So that's the file lecture1.py, and that's the files directory. So that's the configuration we should see. Now let's run lecture1.py. So run, and we get these 3 arrows, and let's go inside files to check if the sentences are fixed. So there we go, Badger is now with a capital B, and let's check the second sentence. Again, Badgers. There was a third sentence as well, all, belong, etc. So A is also capital, and hippo, yeah, we have a capital T here. Same goes for the second sentence. Let's check reno.txt, there we go. Capital R, capital A. So as you can see, everything has worked perfectly. So that's how you can create programs with ChatGPT to process multiple text files, existing text files. So again, the formula is to first explain what input you have. So that was the input up to here, right? That's the problem statement, but the sentences start with a lowercase letter. So that's your problem. And then you want to specify what you want to achieve. And then lastly, you want to specify that you want a Python script. And that's the formula. So thanks a lot for following this. In the next videos, we'll process other types of files such as Excel and CSV. So I'll see you in the next videos. Thanks. Hey, welcome to a new lecture on how to use ChatGPT to create a program which merges or concatenates multiple text files, meaning that let's say we have these 3 text files inside this files folder. So badger.txt, this has some content. the other file has some other content, so the program should be able to get the content of each of these three text files and create one single file which will contain the text of all the files, right? That's what we want to do. So for that, make sure you are inside section 2 folder. And so in section 2, we have the files directory, and we have this lecture1.py, which was from the previous lecture. Now in this area here, we want to right click and go to new file and write lecture2.py. Press OK. And then open ChatGPT. So you want to create a new chat. And let's try to apply the formula which I introduced you in the previous lecture. So the first part is describing the input, what you have so far. So I have multiple text files in a folder named files. So that's a folder named files, and we have multiple text files. Each text file contains some text. So that's the description of the inputs you have. Now, should you write a problem statement here? No, because we don't really have an issue we want to fix here. So you can just leave it as such. And then you can jump in the next sentence, which is I want. So you describe what you want to do. I want to merge those text files into one single text file. And then you can decide whether you want to give more details to these or this is enough. So always try to think as this ChatGPT is a programmer, so a human. So do you think that human would understand you, what you want to do given this query? So do you think that they will know what merging text files means, right? Or do you need to add more details? And there's no right formula for that, but in this case, I think this is very clear what the program is supposed to do. So I'll just say, write me a Python script for that and press enter to execute. So there we go. ChatGPT is typing the code, so there's the files directory. And I can see that ChatGPT is going to create a merged underscore text.txt file, which is the output file. So you can read these comments if you like, although that's not necessary. So all you have to do is copy the code. So the typing has completed. So I'll copy the code, go to Thony. In lecture2.py, which is here, I'll paste that code, right? So if I press the save button, now I should see lecture2.py displayed here, and then I'm ready to run it. So before you run it, make sure that, of course, you have the files directory here. So that's the configuration of the directory structure. And so let's run. There we go. 3 arrows. It means the execution was completed. So we can go back one folder and then to section 2 again. And you should see merged underscore text.txt. If you click that, then we should see all the text concatenated. Now, what's the order of the text, of the pieces of text here? Well, the order, in my case, it starts from badgers. So first, Python got the badgers.txt text and placed it in merged underscore text. And then it went to the next file, hippo, in an alphabetic order, right? So Python is processing the files depending on what the first letter is, so alphabetic order. So the text for badger first, then hippo, then rhino. There we go, that's the concatenated file. And that's the query we had this time. So thanks for following this. I hope you're learning a lot, and I'll see you in the next videos. Hey, welcome to a new video. In this video, you'll learn how to use ChatGPT to create a Python program which processes multiple Excel files. By processing, I mean modifying each Excel file. For example, adding a new column, which is the product of other two columns. So let's look at an example. So I want you to please go to the resources of this lecture and download these three files from there. Then, in Thonny, we have the section 2 directory, right? Now, in this directory, I want to create a new directory called Excel_files. So please use the same name just to be in line with what I'm doing here. So there we go, we have created an empty Excel_files directory. We want to place those files inside this directory now. So I'll do that from my Windows Explorer. So I'll copy these. So I hope you downloaded them. So you want to copy them and then go to that directory that you see in Thonny. So in my case, that's C users as ChatGPT course section 2 Excel_files. So paste the files in there. Right, so if I expand Excel files now, I should see these three XLSX files. Now, what do these files contain? So let's open the first one. That's what we have. We have a header, employee and monthly salary. So these two are the labels for the two columns, the employee column and the monthly salary column. So we have John Smith, which has this monthly salary, and Andy Smith, which has this other salary. And the other files are similar, so they have a similar structure, two columns, employee and monthly salary, and that's the names of the employee and the salary. So please do not modify the Excel files. And the third file as well, employee, monthly salary, John Smith, that salary, Andy Smith, that salary. So it's just some sample files. Now, what we want to do is we want to add a new column. So we want to create a program which adds a new column called annual salary, and that column will be equal to the monthly salary value times 12. So we will calculate the annual salary based on the monthly salary, and we'll do that for all the files at once. So this is a very good example on how you can use ChatGPT to batch process many files, many Excel files in seconds. So let's go to ChatGPT, and you know the formula now. So we want to explain what you have currently. So the inputs, I have multiple Excel files in a folder named, so you want to give the exact name of the folder here, so make sure to have the name correctly. So in my case it is Excel_files, Excel_files. So then you want to explain what each of these Excel files contain. Each Excel file contains two columns, an employee column and a monthly salary column. Now here you want to be very careful with the names of your columns. So the names have to match exactly the names of your columns in the actual files. So make sure to double check that. So employee, monthly salary, so there's a space between monthly and salary, it's not an underscore. So you want to make sure about that, because the program then will use these names to process your Excel columns. Also, you want to be very specific with the case of the letters. So if your employee column has all lowercase. You cannot have here employee with capital E because that will not work. So things are case sensitive here. And of course, the same goes with any name. So file names, folder names, column names, everything has to match exactly to describe what your input data are. Right, so that we explained the input data. Now, do we have a problem here in the sense that do we want to fix something in the data? No, it's not really a problem, it's something we want to do. So you can go and explain what you want to do. I want to add a new annual salary column to each Excel file, right? And then you want to proceed with explaining what this annual salary column should have as value. The annual salary column should be equal to monthly salary times 12, right? So we give a formula here, just using natural language. And that's all you need to describe your problem. So you want to reread this, what you wrote here, make sure that a human would understand that. If a human understands it, so does ChatGPT. So conclude your query with write me a Python script for that and press enter to execute. So there we go, we get the script being printed out in here. That's the folder Excel files that reflects the name of the folder I gave in here in my query. So there we go. Let's copy this code. Go to Thony. Let's close everything we've got here and let's write. So I am in section 2 folder. So in here I'll create a new file, lecture3.py. Place the code there, save, and you've got this lecture3.py in here. So in the same directory we have Excel files folder, so lecture3 Excel files. Now let's run this and you're gonna get an error and we'll fix that error in the next video. So run. There we have the error, so that's the entire error. That means things didn't work out in here. So if you go back one folder, go to section 2 again, you'll not see any changes. Even if you like open your input files, so I'm in the Excel files directory here, so if I open input1.xlsx, there's no annual salary column here. Why? That's because we got an error this time, so there was a problem. But there's nothing to worry about, we'll fix this problem in the next video. I'll give you the instructions on how to easily fix these kinds of errors. So that's something new you'll learn in the next video. I'll see you there. Hey, welcome back. In the previous video, we tried to execute this code, but we got this error. Now, I want to explain you why you got this error and how to fix it. So the entire error is the one in red and also blue here. But what's important for you to read is only the last line. So let's read the last line and try to understand what it means. So it says module not found error, no module named pandas. And if you look at your code, you'll see import pandas here. So what is pandas? Pandas is a module. OS is also a module, right? And we import these modules. And think of modules as extensions. So these are Python extensions. But some extensions, such as OS, come installed with Python. However, other extensions such as pandas, need to be installed separately. So to install now this module, this extension, you need to go to Tools and then go to Manage Packages. And then you want to search for pandas. So type in pandas, go to this button, search on PyPy, and then you want to locate the extension which has the exact name with what the error is explaining here. So you see it's pandas. So that's a pandas extension, this one here. It's not pandas 2, it's not pandas 3, pandas alchemy or anything else, but it's pandas. So you want to click on that. And you should see this more or less, and you'll see this button. So you want to click on the install button. And the installation process will start. So pandas is being installed. You'll know it finished installing when this button here changes to something else. You'll see in just a bit. So there we go. Now we see this upgrade button. So the install button is not here anymore. That means pandas was installed. So you can press on close. And now we're ready to run the program again. But be aware that again we'll get another error. So there we go. This time, again, you want to read the last line of the error. Don't worry about the other lines. So you don't need to know these, right? Only read the last error. So this time we have an import error. Missing optional dependency, open PyXL. Now, open PyXL is known as a dependency. So when you get this type of error, missing optional dependency, you know that you're missing a dependency. And when you get the previous error, which was something like module was not found, you know that you are missing a module. So in both cases, the good news is that you can install these. So again, you want to copy this open PyXL, go to Tools, Manage Packages, paste the name of that dependency there with Ctrl V, search on PyPy, go to that, open PyXL, so make sure to reflect the exact name. Usually you'll see those in bold, the actual result in bold. So click there, click on install. So it was installed on my computer. I'll press on close and then run the script again. This time we have a module missing, XLSX writer. So again, you want to repeat the process. So this happens when you are working with proprietary file extensions such as Excel, for example. You need some dependencies. Usually you'll not need those dependencies with things like text files or CSV files. So let's install this also. Manage packages, paste that there, XLSX writer, search on the repository. So that's the module. Press on install, press on close, and let's run again. Right, now this may look like an error, but it's not an error actually. So this is just some information. That means we're now ready to see the XLX files, how they have been updated. So for that, you want to go to your Windows Explorer, open one of the files, and yeah, there we go. We have a new column, annual salary, which is 12,000. So 1,000 times 12, we get 12,000. Same for this, 2,000 times 12, we get 24,000. And that's the case for all the other Excel files. So there we go. For this one as well. So it's working. And so this was a good lecture on showing you how to install modules and dependencies. So if you get some red things here, don't panic. Try to read the last line. So if it says a module is missing or a dependency is missing, then you want to copy the name of that module or dependency, go to Tools, Manage Packages, paste it, install it, run again until it works. Sometimes you may get some warnings like this one here, but don't worry, that's just a warning for the future. So that was about how to process Excel files. Let's move on with more videos. See you. Hey, in this video you learn how to merge Excel files with ChatGPT and Python. Multiple Excel files in one single Excel file. So let's begin. As input Excel files, we will use the same files we were working on in the previous video. So if you don't have these files, please find them attached in the lecture resources. I'll show you how they look like from the inside. So you want to make sure these files are inside the Excel_files directory. So here they are. I can also show you from my file system here. So each of them, if I open them, they'll look something like this, right? So each file has 3 columns: employee, monthly salary, annual salary, and the same goes for the other files. So the requirement here is that all the files should have the same structure, the same column names, the same number of columns, but the rows can be different. So the resulted file will be one single file containing the name of the column, and in our case the merged file will contain 6 rows. So these 2 rows, these 2, and these 2 as well, so 6 rows in total. Now we'll use 3 Excel files for this program, but the program of course can work with any number of files. So let's begin. I'm inside section 2 here, so make sure you are also inside section 2 directory, and I've got this Excel files directory here, right? So now I can create a new file, a new Python file here. But let's go to ChatGPT first to create that script, and then we put that script in Thonny. So again, you want to describe your input data, your input files. I have multiple Excel files in a directory or folder if you like. It's the same thing. So the name is important, Excel_files. Don't forget the underscore. The name should be exactly as what you see here. So we are describing that the files are inside this directory, and the directory has these exact names, so with lowercase letters here as well. So we do this top-down approach where we describe the folder first, and then we describe what each file contains. I could say here they all contain the same columns. So it's not necessary in this case to mention the column names of each file, right? But it could be beneficial for ChatGPT to know that the structure of the files is the same, so this will help ChatGPT in taking a decision how to merge that file. So there we described what we've got, the existing data and files, and then we want to say what we want to do. I want to merge the Excel files into one single Excel file containing the data of all files. And then write me a Python script for that. That's it. Press enter and let's wait for the script. Note that ChatGPT is again using the pandas library. So pandas is the extension that makes it possible to work with Excel files in Python. Now, you'd ask, do we need to install pandas? No, because you already installed that in the previous video. I suppose you did that already. So that means we can just copy this code. First, make sure that the typing has been completed for the code area, right? It's been completed in my case because ChatGPT is working on these lines. So I can copy the code, go to Thonny, create a new .py file here. So make sure that the file is created in section 2 folder, and then make sure that there is an Excel files in this folder. So somewhere here, right click, go to new file, lecture 4.py, press enter, paste that code. And yeah, that's the directory, Excel files. So this directory is the one in here. And since lecture4.py is located in the same directory with this directory, that means I'll have no errors for this script. So you can save or you can run directly. If you save it, you'll see the file here. Then you can run whatever you prefer. So there we go, we got this arrows, that means the script was executed. So let's do a refresh by going back and then going forward to section 2 again, and that's our merged underscore file .xlsx. That's the output file. So you should also see for a file named maybe similar like mine, but maybe different. What's important is the content of that file. So let's locate that file in our file system. Merged underscore file, which is inside the section 2 folder. So let's go to my file system. So section 2 folder, this one here. Let's see, yeah, there we go. Merged underscore file .xlsx, double click it, and that's our output. So that's the expected output. The correct output, we have these 3 columns: employee, monthly salary, annual salary, and we have the merged data here. So these are the rows of the first input one.xlsx file, these are the rows of the second input, and these are the rows of the third input file. So let me close that. Good job, ChatGPT, and yeah, you're also doing a great job. So thanks for following so far. We have some more interesting automations to perform with ChatGPT and Python. So I'll see you in the next videos. Hey, welcome back. In my section 2 directory, I have a stockholm.csv file here. You can find this file attached in the lecture resources. So let me show you what this file is. So if I go to my section 2 folder in my file system, so a CSV file can be opened with Excel. It can also be opened with a simple text editor. So if I double click it, most likely it will open it with Excel or another spreadsheet program. So this file looks like this. Basically, it does have these columns with data. Now, what we want to do is we want to create a program which will edit the TG column. So this is supposed to be the temperature, so temperature observations for each row, but the temperature has been multiplied by 10. So the real temperature actually should be this number here divided by 10. So let's do that. Let's modify this TG column by dividing each of its values by 10. So this is a good opportunity for you to understand how to work with CSV files with ChatGPT and Python. So let's go to ChatGPT, create a new chat, and describe your input files as usual. So I have a stockholm.csv file, right? Put it in quotes, that's better. Make sure that the name is correct, Stockholm. So Stockholm, that's very important. So the file has a TG column. I want to divide all values of that column by 10. Write me a Python script for that. Yeah, that's it. Press enter. Then you'll notice that this time ChatGPT may use the CSV extension. So not pandas. Pandas was used for Excel. pandas can also be used with CSV files, so it's also likely that in your case, ChatGPT may be using pandas instead of CSV, and that's fine. But if you've got import CSV here, then you know that there are different extensions to do the same job. So I'll copy this, go to Thonny. So I'm in section 2. Here is my stockholm.csv file, and then in this directory I right click, go to new file, name this lecture5.py, press enter, paste the code. So that's the script. Now if I execute this, I've got no errors. So CSV is included with Python. You don't need to install it as we did with pandas. So we went to tools, manage packages, and we installed pandas because pandas was an extension which had to be installed separately. That is not the case with CSV. If it was the case, you'd have gotten an error here saying that CSV module is missing, then you'd go to tools and manage packages and install it. So we executed this, then you want to do a refresh, so go back, go to section 2 again, and yeah, now I can see a Stockholm_updated.csv file. I can also see in the code here that this was trying to create a Stockholm_updated.csv file, and it managed to do so. So the file was successfully generated, but let's check the content inside. So there we go in my file system. I'll double click that. And yeah, that's the updated file. As you can see, the values of the TG column now are decimal point numbers, for example, -8.7. So that's supposed to be Celsius degrees, and yeah, we've got the same for every row, and that's many rows. So dozens of thousands, more than 36,000 rows. Each of them has been updated. So you can also do this with Excel, right? But with ChatGPT and Python, you're also able to do this like in a batch operative manner. So perhaps you had multiple files, multiple CSV files, which you'd need to modify the TG column of all of those CSV files. So ChatGPT and Python would be very powerful to do that. And that's about this lecture. So thanks a lot. See you in the next ones. Please find attached a zip file which contains 400 text files. So I want you to please unzip those files and then copy those files. Copy them all and then go to your section 2 directory. So section 2 is where we were working on in Thonny, right? Section 2. So in your Windows Explorer or Mac Finder, locate that folder. In my case, it would be section 2. Inside section 2, I'll create a new folder. I'll just name this text_files and paste those 400 files into this directory. So now we can see those files from here as well. So text files, you can expand that. And if you open any of these, you'll get some bunch of data. That's not important. What we're concerned about in this video is we will put these into some zip files. The rule is this: ChatGPT will create a program for us, and that program will place the first 10 text files into one separate zip file. So the file that ends with 1 here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in one separate zip file, and then 11 up to 20 in another separate zip file, then 21 up to 30 in another file, and so on. So we will create a zip file based on the names of these text files. So that's an intelligent rule, which would be too boring to do it by hand, to just select all those files one by one or 10 by 10 and then create zip files. So let's see how we can do that with ChatGPT. So my files are inside this text underscore files directory, so we're ready to write the query using a new chat. So I have 400 files. You can say 400, you can specify the number or not. It's not really important, but it does make the query more explicit. So we do have 400 items here actually. So 400 items. So I'll just specify that. 400 text files in a directory named text underscore files. So make sure this reflects the name of your directory in Thonny. Lowercase letters. And I want now to give some more details on these files. So we are concerned about the files themselves, not about the data inside the files. So we are concerned about the files and the names of the files. The names of the files here are important because they define the rule, how the files will be zipped. So we've got names in this rule, right? So let me copy one of them. To do that, you can right click, go to rename, and you can copy that file name by pressing Ctrl C in your keyboard or Command C, or you can type that down manually. So that's the name. So I can say the files are named like this, and then another file like this. I'll write 2 here, and so on. You can say. So you are letting ChatGPT understand the naming convention of your files. And then you can say, I want to place files 01 to, and here you specify 10. So you remove the last 2 digits and write 10 in one separate zip file. Then you say this and you replace that to 1. So the 11 to, that would be 20 in another separate zip file, and so on. So that's the rule. So do you think that someone else, your friend or another programmer, would understand what you're trying to do given this query? I think they will do it. So what I'll do now is I'll just say write me a Python script for that and press enter. So there we go. ChatGPT is using zip file. Now this is installed with Python, so you'll not have to install an extra extension here. So let's wait for the typing to be completed. So it's completed in my case. I'll copy the code, go to Thonny. And so make sure you are inside section 2 where your text underscore files is located. So don't go inside text files. So you shouldn't do that. You should be inside section 2, and here you want to create a new file. Let's name this lecture6.py. Press enter, paste the code. So it points to the text underscore files directory, which is here. So we're ready to execute this script. It will take a while. So yeah, now it's completed. So let's check. Let's go back. And then section 2 again. See, there we go. We've got the zip files. So it's about 40 of them. So there we go. And let's go to the file system. In section 2, this is where my zip files were generated. So let's check one of the files. Let's go to batch 15. So batch 15, 188, 197, right? Let's check batch 16, 198, 207. So it seems like ChatGPT didn't understand us very well here. So in that case, don't worry, you can go back to your chat and then follow up with another query. Because as far as I can see, what ChatGPT did is it stepped through every 10 files. So it didn't look at the actual names. So from 1 to 10, we have all the numbers without any missing file name. But then from 11 to 20, for example, we do have some missing files, such as 17 is not there, 18 is not there. But what ChatGPT did is it just got 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So all the 10 files here. So a batch of 10 files. So if you want to do this based on the numbers, on the names, you want to follow up with a question. The follow-up query should be looking like this. The first part should be you telling ChatGPT what ChatGPT did wrong. You created the zip files in batches of 10 files. And then give some more details on what the problem is. Try to explain why ChatGPT did it wrong. So you didn't look at the file names. The file names have a number before the .txt extension. The number is important. Files with numbers 1 to 10 should be inside a zip file. Numbers 11 to 20 should be inside another zip file. So this time we try to be more detailed in our query. So the number before the .txt extension is very important. Rewrite the Python script and press enter. So the typing was completed, so let's copy the code, go to Thony. Let's delete those batch.zip files first. So now I'll go here, press Shift and the down arrow key and then delete those. So they are gone now. So in lecture 6.py, I'll select this code and paste the new code here. Yeah, that's it, and execute again. So here are the files. You can also show them in here by going back and forth. So let's check number 1. It's from 1 to 10. Let's check number 2, 11 to 16. Number 3, 25 to 30. Yep, that looks good. 36 to 40. So everything seems to be working fine this time. And yeah, that's something very important to learn, that not always you get it right with the first time. So follow-up queries are very important, and you should try to be very persistent. And it's good also if you just repeat your explanations, such as what I did here. For example, the file names have a number before the txt extension. The number is important, and then I repeated that again. So the number before the .txt extension is very important. So that basically increases the weight of this statement. So we have it 2 times here, 1 here and 1 here. And then, just like a human would do, if you repeat something 2 times to a person, then it's more likely that they will put more importance to that statement. So always think of ChatGPT as another person, which can make errors, but they can also fix those errors, as they did with this example. So thanks a lot for following so far. I'm very glad you're here, and I'll see you in the next videos. See you. Hey, welcome to a new section of the course doing data analysis and visualization with ChatGPT and Python. Let's start with the first lecture. In the lecture resources, you'll find a Stockholm_updated.csv file. Please copy that. Go to your ChatGPT course directory, which is here in my case, and create a new folder. Name it section 3. So there we go. It should display here. If it doesn't, go back one folder and then go back again to ChatGPT course. So go inside section 3 and also in here. So you want to paste that file inside section 3. So there we go. That's the file. Now this file contains some data. So if you double click, it should open with Excel or another spreadsheet program, whatever you have installed in your computer. So it looks like this. And we will doing some data analysis on the temperature values. So these are observations, daily observations. It starts in year 1756, so that's a long time ago. And we have data up to the very last row, so that's 2006. So if you press Ctrl and the down arrow key, you should be able to go to the last cell, which is 2022. So that's the last observation. And yeah, those are the data. So let's go up again with Ctrl upper arrow key. So that's the temperature column, this one in here, TG. So for example, on the 1st of January 1756, the daily temperature, the mean temperature for that day was minus 8.7. Then the next day, 2nd of January, was minus 9.2, and so on. Now we want to create a program which gives us the average temperature. But in data analysis, before you calculate a statistic such as the mean, you first want to build the histogram. The histogram is the very first step you want to take in data analysis because it's a figure which describes your data, how your data are distributed. So let's begin. Let's go to ChatGPT, create a new chat. So there we go. And then start by explaining your files and your data as usual. So I have a Stockholm_updated.csv file. So double check that with the name of your file, Stockholm_updated. I do recommend you to actually just copy that and paste it here to avoid any typos. So like that. The file has a TG column. Put that in quotes to make it more clear that it's a name, which contains the temperature observations in degree Celsius. I want to create a histogram for that column. Write me a. Now here you have to be careful what you say. So you cannot just say Python here because there are some very different data analysis libraries out there to create histograms and do data analysis. So here you might want to be more specific on the library you want to use. One of the best libraries nowadays, a very modern library, which creates web-based data analysis visualizations, is Streamlit. So you want to specify, write me a script using Streamlit instead of Python. So Streamlit is a Python extension, right? You can also say Streamlit and Python, that's also fine. But only Streamlit would also work fine. So press enter to execute that. So there we go. ChatGPT is importing Streamlit and Pandas. So Streamlit is the library, the extension I was just talking about, which creates those visualizations, and Pandas is to read the CSV file. So you can use CSV, the CSV module, or Pandas to read CSV files. Matplotlib is also a library and extension. We'll see what we need to install. Thony will tell us if we've got some error or not. So copy the code, go to Thony. So I am inside section 3 folder where my Stockholm _updated.csv file is located. And then I'll right click here, go to new file, lecture 1.py, paste the code there, and execute. So there we get the first error, module not found error, no module named Streamlit. So copy that, Streamlit, go to Tools, Manage Packages, paste that Streamlit here, go to Search on PyPy or PyPy, and press on Streamlit. This button should show up, press it to install the Streamlit extension. Streamlit was installed in my case, so I can close the window, run again the script. We've got another error, module not found error, no module named matplotlib. So we need to install matplotlib, which is imported in here, in the third line. So go to Tools, Manage Packages, paste matplotlib there, search on PyPy, click on matplotlib, install. So Streamlit is an extension which creates a web page which you can open on the browser, and matplotlib is the package, the extension used to create the plots, the figures inside that web page. So matplotlib and Streamlit are working together here. You'll see the output. So let's run again. Now you'll get this error. Warning: to view the Streamlit app on a browser, run it with the following command: streamlit run lecture.py arguments. So with Streamlit, the execution of the script is slightly different. It doesn't work with this button. So what you should do is you should copy this command, right? Streamlit run lecture1.py without the arguments part. So copy that. And then you want to go to Tools and go to Open System Shell. But before you do that, make sure that your directory is pointed at section 3, so where your lecture1.py is located, so there. Don't change anything, so go to Tools, Open System Shell, right, this will open. You see this points to section 3, this folder, so the current directory of this terminal. This is a terminal or a command line where you write commands. So this command line points to this folder. So here you can paste that command with Ctrl V or Command V. Or if the terminal doesn't allow you to do that, you can just type it streamlit run lecture1.py. So streamlit run lecture1.py and press enter. This will ask you for your email, probably. If it's the first time you run it, you can just press enter if you don't want to provide an email. If you've got this, you can press on always use this app, okay, and allow access in here. Right. And that will open up the browser automatically on this page. So that's the histogram. So there we have the temperature on the horizontal axis and the frequency on the vertical axis. So which means that, let's take, for example, this column here, right? This represents that this is telling that there are about more than 12,000 temperature observations that have a value of about, this should be about 1-2 Celsius degree. So looking at this, we can tell that in Stockholm, most of the time, or you can say the most frequent temperature you'll encounter in Stockholm is about 1 to 2 degrees Celsius. And then you can say that the less frequent temperatures are about 25 degrees, right? And also on the other edge, which is minus 18 degrees Celsius, somewhere in here. So this gives you a good overview of how temperature behaves in this particular city. And then you can ask for more detailed statistics. For example, we can go to ChatGPT. So with data analysis, you want to stay in the same chat. I want to calculate the mean temperature. Write me a Python script for that. Now you don't have to write Streamlit here, because Streamlit is when you want to create visualizations, right? Like this one in here. But a mean is just a value, just a number, the mean. So all you need is Python. You don't need Streamlit for that. So press enter. So that was a follow-up question. That's why I didn't give many details, because now ChatGPT knows that we are working on this Stockholm_updated.csv file. It knows that the temperature column is named TG, so that's a good follow-up question. Yeah, let's copy this. Go to Thony, write a new lecture 1.1.py file and paste that code there. Execute it. And we've got this output, more or less. Perhaps in your case it's a bit different. So 6.21 degrees Celsius, that's the temperature of Stockholm across a few hundred years, 200, 300 years. So as you can see, we didn't have Streamlit here, so we can execute the script using that button. But if your script has Streamlit, then you want to go to Tools, Open System Shell, just as I showed you, and then right here, Streamlit run, and the name of the Python file, which in our case was lecture1.py. And then your browser should open, showing you the visualization you wanted to produce. That's about Streamlit. Let's have some more lectures on data analysis, because it's fun and it's very useful when you're working with data. I'll see you in the next video. In the previous video, we wrote 2 queries to ChatGPT. That was the first query, where we asked ChatGPT to create a histogram of the TG column. The TG column is what contains the temperature values. Then the second query was to calculate the mean temperature. Now the third query will be to create a visualization, a plot showing the temperature across time. So when you say time, then you are implying a new column, a date column. So if you go to your file, open it, you'll see we've got this date column here, right? Which contains the date. So what you want to do is you want to stay in the same chat, right, where we had these 2 queries, and you want to elaborate on the input data that you have. So you'll say the Stockholm_updated.csv file also has a date column. So you are elaborating with also. That column contains the temperature observation date. In the format, you want to specify the format here, right? So the format was year, month, day, right? So you should write this. Y, M for month, D for day. I want to aggregate the temperature by year and then plot the yearly temperatures across time. Write me a script using Streamlit and Python. So what we want to do this time is basically we want a graph which shows the temperature, the average temperature of each year across time. So we'll see how temperature has behaved during the last centuries or so. That's quite an achievement. So let's execute. ChatGPT is saying sure, so that looks promising. So there we go. I can copy the code now. Go to Thony, create a new Python file, lecture2.py, paste the code there. So we are inside section 3 folder where we have this Stockholm updated CSV file which corresponds to this here. This is Streamlit, therefore I will first save the code. So we've got lecture2.py and then making sure that you are in section 3 folder, right? Go to Tools and go to Open System Shell to run the script. So that will be Streamlit run lecture2.py and press Enter to execute. That should open your browser automatically. And there we go. So that's the temperature of the last, well, 270 years. So that's almost 3 centuries of data. And yeah, it's impressive to see the temperature going down and going up again. So we've got 1 temperature point for each year here. You can also follow up by saying, I want bar graph. I want a bar graph. Rewrite the script. So by saying that, you mean the script that was just generated. So press Enter. Let's copy the code. Go to Thony. I would prefer to create a new file, lecture2.2.py, instead of replacing the previous file. So paste the code there, save, go to Tools, open a new shell, and do Streamlit run lecture2.2.py and press Enter. And there we have a bar graph, which could be a better representation for this type of data. So there we go, that's how you can do data visualization with ChatGPT. Thanks a lot for following, I'll see you in the next videos. Hello, welcome back. In the previous video we created this graph. Now I want to add an interactive feature to this graph. So we'll go back to ChatGPT. This is the chat we've been working on. So my last query was, I want a bar graph. Rewrite the script. So again, we want to keep on the same chat because we're working on the same data. So this time I want the same graph, like this one, right? But with an added feature. Therefore, I want to copy this query. So this query is where I asked about creating an aggregated plot of temperature across dates. And so I want to paste that in here. So the Stockholm updated file also has a date column. That column contains the temperature observation date. I want to aggregate the temperature by year and plot the year temperature across time using a bar graph. I also want a drop-down list widget. A drop-down list widget to let users choose between Celsius and Fahrenheit. and plot the data based on the user selection. Write me a script using Streamlit and Python and execute that. So we're trying to give the possibility to different users from different countries, which might use different units for temperature. So I can see already that the script is converting Celsius to Fahrenheit here, right? Using that formula. So let's copy the code. Go to Thonny. I am inside section 3 folder, so a new file named lecture3.py. Paste the script you got from ChatGPT. So this is a Streamlit app, therefore save it first and then go to tools and open system shell and do Streamlit run. My file was named lecture3.py, so lecture3.py and press enter. And this is what I got. So that's the plot, the bar graph, and we've got this drop-down list here, also known as a combo box. So a drop-down list widget or a combo box widget. So the graph by default is showing temperature in Celsius degrees, but you can switch to Fahrenheit and it will update automatically. So there we go. That's like about 45 Fahrenheit across the centuries. Yeah, that's how you create interactive graphs. To know more about what widgets you can have with Streamlit, you can ask ChatGPT what other widgets I can have in Streamlit other than a drop-down list. So that would be a good question to ask, and ChatGPT probably will give you a list of widgets explaining each widget, such as the slider, a checkbox, a radio box, and so on, etc. So there we go. That's how you create interactive plots with ChatGPT, Streamlit, and Python. So there we go. Also a slider example. ChatGPT tried to give us a bonus here. So thanks a lot. See you in the next videos. Hey, welcome to the web development section with ChatGPT. In this section, I'll show you how you can use ChatGPT to generate Python web apps, so web apps made with Python. We'll ask ChatGPT to generate the code and then we'll put the code into Thonny, the Thonny IDE, and then run the code to see the web app. So let's go to ChatGPT and start with the first basic example. I want to create a word counter web app, right? So that would be a description, a first description, just to tell ChatGPT what you intend to do, and then you can give more details. The user should be able to enter some text and press a button to get the word count. Now, this here is optional. Press a button to get the word count. So you have two options here. If you have an interface in mind, how you want the web app, the website to look like. So if you want a button there, then you want to specify that there is a button that the user can press and they can get the word count. But if you're not sure about what interface you want, then you can let ChatGPT use its experience to come up with an optimal interface, so a popular interface, which perhaps doesn't have a button, so perhaps the user can just type in the code and the word count will show dynamically on the fly somewhere, so feel free to use either way. I'll just leave it to the hands of ChatGPT, so I'll just say the user should be able to enter some text and get something general and get the word count. Although you can also keep this second sentence out. So if you want ChatGPT just to decide on its own what the interface should look like, then this will be enough. And then all you'd have to do is write me a web app using Flask and Python. So Flask is one of the Python web frameworks. So it's like an extension, but it's called a framework, a web framework. So just like we had Streamlit to create those data analysis web apps, we have Flask for more general purpose web apps. So with that, you can press enter. And ChatGPT should give you the code you need. So now you might be tempted to copy that code and go to Thonny and paste it somewhere, but ChatGPT here will give you two pieces of code blocks. So that's the first one, and that is the second one. This is most likely the case, but you could also get just one, which is fine. So don't worry if you get one code block, but if you get two, we should take care to copy both two in our Thonny. So let's go to Thonny. This is section 4, so I'll create a new directory inside my ChatGPT course directory. So new directory and name it section 4. Press OK. Go inside that section 4 directory. And then here, instead of creating a new file, what you want to do instead is create a new directory and name it web app 1 and press OK. Go inside web app 1. So we'll create multiple web apps through this section, and it's good to keep all those web apps in a separate directory. So the first web app will be inside this directory. I'm creating a separate directory for each web app because for each web app we will have multiple files. So for web applications, one Python file is not enough. You need multiple files. So let's create the first file, new file, inside web app 1 and name it lecture1.py. Press OK. And then you want to create a directory inside web app also. So new directory, call it templates. The name should be exactly as you see it here, with lowercase letters, templates, so plural, with an S at the end, not template, but templates. Press OK, so we have this directory and we have this lecture.py file. Now we can go to ChatGPT and copy the first code. So this is the Python code. Make sure you are copying the Python code. You know that when it says here Python. And you also know that when you see these import statements at the top here. So you know that that's the Python code. So copy that, go to Thonny, paste it in here, save it. When you save it, this should show up, lecture1.py. So make sure that your directory structure looks like this. So .py file is here, and you have the templates folder in the same directory, which is web app 1, right? Now we go inside templates, so double click. You are inside templates. You want to right click here and create a new file. This will be an index.html file. Press OK. And inside index.html, you want to copy the other code, which is one here. So it could say PHP or HTML, but it starts with this doctype HTML. That's how you know that this is HTML code for sure. So doctype HTML, and then it follows with HTML and so on. So copy that, go to Thonny. You want to paste it here, save, and we've got this index.html file inside the templates folder. Go back to web app 1, so you can expand that if you like, and you'll see that you have this directory structure. So your directory structure should be the same as mine. So lecture1 index.html inside templates. Then we're ready to run this. So go to lecture1.py, double click it, and go to the run button. You'll get this error, no module named Flask. So that means you need to install Flask. So copy it, go to Tools, Manage Packages, paste Flask there, search, click on the Flask result. This button should show up, so press on that button to install the Flask extension for Python. So Flask was installed on my computer, so I can close that window and start the app. So I just ran the app using this button. This time I don't get an error, so these are not errors, right? This, if you see these, that means the app is running. You can visit the app either by clicking on this link here, or you can copy that link and go to your browser and paste it in your address bar. So there we go. That's the app. Hello, I'm here. Press on count words and we get 4 words. Now this is not very impressive, I admit. So this is lacking CSS. So what is CSS? Let's add some CSS. Well, to understand CSS, first let's make sure you understand these 2 files. So we have a .py file, which is a Python file that contains the Python code. And then we have the .html file. The Python file is what makes the communication between the browser and the server. So these are invisible things to the user, but inside index.html, which looks like this contains HTML code. HTML code is what renders these widgets, that text there, this text box, the button. So HTML is what builds the visible part of a web app, which is also known as the front end. And Python is what builds the back end. And the 2 communicate with each other to serve a web app to the users, such as this one. Now, we also have CSS. CSS is applied to the HTML elements to make them look better. So this box here could look better if we add some CSS. So let's go back to ChatGPT, and it's important to be in the same chat that we've been working on for this app. And you want to state the problem. The app looks very basic on the front end. Add some Bootstrap to make it look more modern. So what is Bootstrap? I mentioned CSS. Well, Bootstrap is a library of CSS. So it's CSS actually, but it makes things easier. So it's a modern CSS library. So you just press enter and wait for a response. So now what ChatGPT will do normally is it will give us the updated index.html code, which is this one in here, right? So what you're supposed to do is you want to wait for this code to finish, and then you want to copy that code and replace it. We'll do that together. So let's wait first. So there we go, the code is ready. So let's copy it and go to Thonny, go to index.html. So double click it. And here you might want to specify Thonny to open it with Thonny among your programs. So there we go, Thonny. Check this text box as well and press on OK. So you want to select that all, delete it and paste the updated code that we just got from ChatGPT. And then you want to press the save button, don't forget that. And then you want to rerun the app using that button. Oh, but be careful here, because you see what I did is I ran the index.html file. So you want to make sure you are inside lecture1.py and then press that button. Then click on that, reload the page, Now the app still looks like there isn't any styling. So in that case, that happens sometimes. So all you need to do is go back to ChatGPT and just tell the problem, the exact problem you have. I tried that code, but no styling was applied. So styling means the HTML page, this page is still basic. Give me a working alternative and press enter to execute it. And so ChatGPT will give us an alternative which consists of creating a new file named style.css in the static directory. So we need to go back to Thonny. In the web app 1 directory, we want to create a new directory called static with lowercase letters. Go inside static, then create here a new file named style.css. Style.css. Press OK. And you want to copy that code inside style.css. So copy that, paste it here. Right? Go back to ChatGPT, and then you want to update the Python code with this code. So lecture.py, select it all, delete, paste the new code, go back here. And then you also want to update the index.html code. So go to templates, index.html, update it with a new code. And then you want to save all of them. So index.html, save. Lecture1.py, save. Style.css, save. Yeah, that's what we have. And yeah, let's run the code again. So go to lecture1.py, and then you press that button. Visit that, and now we've got a better representation of the web app. Hello there again. So 3 words. There we go, 3 words. It's working. So that's how you can create web apps with Python and ChatGPT. As you can see, it could be more demanding to generate web apps, so you have to be a bit persistent with your follow-up questions. You might not get it right the first time. Let me wrap up what we did. So we just said we want to create a word counter web app using Flask and Python. Then we got the Python code and the HTML code. Then we asked to get some Bootstrap. ChatGPT gave us some non-working code, and then we asked that was not working, give me a working alternative. So the alternative word is the keyword here. And then ChatGPT gave us this. So the structure of a web app is this one in here. So you have one main folder. In that folder we have the Python file. Then you have a static and a templates folder. These should be exactly named as you see here. Inside static you have the styling files. Inside templates you have the HTML files. And that's it. Thanks for following. See you later. Hey, welcome back to building a new web app with ChatGPT. Previously we built a word counter web app. Now let's close all these files so we have a fresh view here. Also close the shell, and we want to create a new folder where we'll place the new app. So this is the web app 1 folder. We want to go back 1 directory. So that's section 4. In this directory, I want to create a new directory, web app 2. Press enter, double click to go inside that directory. And first you want to create a structure. So a directory structure, templates, a folder, another folder, static. So this is the standard for Flask apps, and then create a Python file here, lecture2.py. Press enter. Now in this directory, we also want to put a file. That file is this one here, which you can find attached in the lecture resources, so quotes.txt. Copy that file and paste it in that web app 2 directory, so you might want to find that in your file system. Web app 2, paste it in here. What is this file? This file contains quotes. So, for example, that's the first quote, and the author of that, the second quote, the third one, and so on. So we want to create a web app which displays a random quotes each time the website is visited. So a random quote from this file. So this is a web app where we want to give some input data. So let's see how we can communicate with ChatGPT to build this web app. This is a new web app, so I want to create a new chat. So we want to start from telling ChatGPT what data we have. So I have a quotes.txt file. That file contains quotes. The file structure looks like this. So we want to give here the first lines of the file. So double click the file in Thonny and perhaps copy the first 4 or 5 quotes. So copy them and paste them in here. And then you want to tell, I want to create a web app that displays one of the quotes .txt file whenever the web app is visited. Write a web app using Flask and Python and press enter to execute it. So there we go, we have the Python file here. Now, this time ChatGPT is giving us the code pieces by pieces. So which could be a bit challenging for you to get all these pieces together. So if you find that challenging, then you can wait for ChatGPT to finish generating those pieces. So basically this is the same code, right? But it's in different steps. So if you don't want the steps, then you want to follow up with a query and you can tell ChatGPT to give you the code in one piece. So let's wait first. But it's also possible that you might get the code in different steps here, and then ChatGPT will give you the complete code. So it will get all those chunks and put them together as it's doing right now. So there we go. So that means I will not have to ask ChatGPT to give me the complete code. If it was not giving me the complete code in here, then I would say something like, you gave me the Python code in chunks. Please give me the complete code in one piece. And that would do it. But I will not have to do that. So that's my Python code. I can copy it. And that was in steps. So I don't need that because that's already here. So I'll copy that code inside lecture.py file. So paste here, save, and that file is displayed in here. So you see inside the file we are referring to the codes.txt file, which is located in this directory. So if this is perhaps static slash quotes in your case, then you might need to put codes.txt inside the static folder for the connection to occur. But in my case, this is not the case. It's just quotes.txt, so everything is fine. So save the code again, and let's look for the other code, so the HTML code. Copy that, go to Thony, inside templates now. So let's double click inside templates, create a new file, index.html, press OK, paste that HTML code there, save, go back, and let's run lecture.py. So double click on lecture.py, make sure it's open here, and then you press that button to run it. Click on that link, and there we go. So that's a random code generator, like a heading here, and then that's one quote. If I reload the page, I get another quote, another, and so on. So it's working fine. If you want to add some styling, you can follow the instructions in the previous video. So that is where I explain how to add CSS styling to your web apps. And yeah, that's about this. This is how you can make web apps by specifying some input data first, as we did here. So we had a quotes.txt file, and then we described what that file contains by just giving a sample of that file. And then ChatGPT will create a Python script which parses that quotes.txt file because it knows what the structure of that file is inside. So thanks a lot, see you later. Hi, in the previous video we built this website, a random quote generator. This website runs locally for now. Locally meaning that you are the only one who can visit this website. So in this video we want to publish this website on the internet so that everyone can visit the website through the website's address, through the website URL. Let's see how to do that. First of all, I want you to understand how this process works. So on the internet you have the servers and the clients. So a server is the computer where the website is running. And this computer is the one client, one person who is visiting that website, which is stored in this server. So currently these files are stored in our computer. So our computer is behaving as a server currently, but also as a client. So now we want to be able to upload these files to a remote server. I'll show you a free service which gives you a server for free, so you can upload your files there, and those files will be available 24/7. So your website will be available 24/7 and everyone can visit it. So let's do this. Let's upload the website to a server so it is public. Let's go to Google and search for Python Anywhere. And this website should show up, pythonanywhere.com, so click there. You want to go to pricing and sign up, create a beginner account, pick a username, enter your email address here, and pick a password, agree to the terms and conditions, and click on register. So that should give you a free account on Python Anywhere. And then to upload your website, to publish your website, you should go to the web menu here, and you want to go to add a new web app. And then go to next, choose Flask, choose Python 3.10, and then here you want to rename this to reflect the name of your Python file. So we're talking about web app 2, right? My Python file is named lecture2.py. So to make sure you're getting the correct file name, just go to rename, copy that entire text with Control C or Command C and go to your browser. So you want to replace that last part after the slash. You want to paste your file name. So go to next after that. You should see this view. And then you want to go to the files section. And then you want to go to My Site. My Site is the directory which will contain all your web app files. So My Site is like a directory inside this server. So we have access to a server now. We are accessing that server through this website, through Python Anywhere. So through this interface. And in this My Site folder, we have this lecture2.py file already uploaded, but we want to click over that file and we want to change this default code. So you want to delete that and you want to copy your code into there. So select all that with Control A and copy it and paste it in this file here. So make sure to delete these empty lines. Also, a very important change we want to do here is we want to change this part here. This is the path, the file path to the quotes.txt file. What you want to do is you want to go here and copy this. So /home/ your username /mysite/ copy that text. Go here just before the quotes and paste that text in here. And I'll put this up here. So this is a correct path. So double quotes /home your username /mysite/ quotes.txt quotes. So we need to do this change because the path system inside this server works differently from the path in our computer. So then you want to press save and then you want to click on My Site to go back to the directory here. So we are in My Site. So My Site is the equivalent of web app 2. So now we also want to upload quotes.txt there and we want to upload these two folders as well along with any files they may contain. So let's go with the quotes.txt file next. So to upload files, you can either create them by pressing that and paste the content there, or you can press on that upload a file button. So I want to locate that quotes.txt file in users as and then ChatGPT core section 4 web app 2. There we go, quotes.txt, open, wait a few seconds and quotes.txt will be displayed in here, right? So if I click it, I should see the quotes in here. So don't change it, go back to My Site. I just wanted to show that to you. Next, we want to upload those two directories, but you cannot upload directories, static or templates. First, you want to create empty directories. So go here and write template. So templates with lowercase letters with an S at the end and press on new directory. When you press on new directory, two things will happen. First, a new directory called templates will be created, and second, you'll be taken to that directory. So you can see that now we are inside templates. So we want to go back to My Site by clicking over My Site. And then you'll see that here on the left we have the templates directory and the files here on the right. So here we see the directories inside My Site, and here we see the files inside My Site. So let's create the second directory, static, even though this is not really necessary because we have no files there. But anyway, just to be consistent, let's create a static directory. So note that I'm creating this inside My Site. So make sure to be inside My Site when you create that directory. Otherwise, you may be creating it inside the templates directory. So Note the difference. We have static here and templates in the my site directory. Next, we want to go inside templates and upload the index.html file inside there. There we go. So inside templates, we have index.html. Go back to my site and we have uploaded all the files and directories. So next, what we want to do is we want to go back to web and we want to reload the website. And once that is completed, then we're done. All we can do now is visit our website, and the URL is this one in here. In my case, it is arditpython.pythonanywhere.com. So arditpython is the username of my Python Anywhere account. So in your case, it should be your username. So to visit your website, you can click over that link or right click and go to open new window. And there is our website. So that's a random code. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act but a habit. If you reload, you'll get a new one, perhaps, and so on. So this site now can be accessed by anyone. This is your public URL. Anyone on the internet can visit your website. So I hope this helps, and thanks a lot for following so far. I'll see you in the next videos. Hey, welcome to a new section on building desktop GUIs, desktop graphical user interfaces. So what is a desktop GUI? A desktop GUI is any program that you have installed in your computer, like Excel, Microsoft Word, even Thonny is a desktop GUI program on itself. So you can interact as a user, you can interact with such programs using the graphical user interface, which means you can click over a button, you can type in text in text boxes, etc. So let's go to ChatGPT and build our first desktop GUI. So as usual, we want to start with what we want to do. So I want to create a temperature converter desktop GUI app. So that would be the first sentence which describe your general idea. So this will be a program which runs on your computer and where you or the user can convert from Celsius degrees to Fahrenheit, so temperature units from different systems, American system to European system, Indian system. So in this first sentence, we are specifying the type of the app. So this is a desktop GUI app. It's not a web app. And we're also specifying the title of this app, so to say. So in one sentence, we are describing what we want to build. So that is the first sentence, followed by more details you might want to give to this query. So that would be in the app. Users can convert. So when you're building programs with graphical user interfaces or web apps, so these have graphical interfaces, right? Even web apps have a graphical user interface, right? So this here on chat.openai is a web app. Basically, we can click over things here, so that's a graphical user interface running on a server and served through a browser. So these interfaces always have the user in the center. So you want to think as the user and describe the details from the user's perspective. So the user can convert temperature from Celsius to Fahrenheit and vice versa. So also Fahrenheit to Celsius. Now, do we need another sentence here with more details? Well, if you have something in mind, if you have an idea in mind of how the widgets will be, like if you want a button or you want two buttons or you want a drop-down list where the user can select between Fahrenheit and Celsius. So if you want to keep this customized, which is the case when you have a clear idea, then you want to give more details here where you say, oh, the interface should have a button, or you can also give a name to the button like a convert button and a drop down list above the button where the user can select between Fahrenheit and Celsius. You get the idea. But if you want to keep it standard, so if you want to have a general interface and have ChatGPT optimize it to the best of its knowledge, then you want to keep it this. And then write a last sentence, which is build me a program. So usually I used to say write me a script. Now I'm saying build me a program, because when you are building web apps and desktop GUIs, we refer to these more like building than scripting, right? A script is something smaller which automates something like generating some files or modifying some existing files. So that's more like a script. And the program is something bigger, and usually we say build me a program. In this case, it would be for that using PyQt and Python. What is PyQt? Well, in the previous section, you learned that we can build web apps using the Flask extension. PyQt is also a Python extension, but for desktop GUIs. Other extensions for desktop GUIs are Tkinter, PySimpleGUI, WXPython, etc. PyQt is often referred to as the best one, so it does have more features than other extensions, so we'll use PyQt. Press enter to execute the query. So there we go. ChatGPT is importing some elements from PyQt. So you see import that from PyQt 5. It's using PyQt 5, this version. And that's also the version we will install in Thonny. You'll see how we do that. So let's wait for the typing to finish. There we go. Usually GUIs, they finish with this block. So if, just something you might want to know. So this is the last block, and copy the code, go to Thonny. I will create a section 5 folder. So I'm inside ChatGPT course. Here I'll right click, go to new directory, section 5, press enter. Double click section 5 to go inside section 5. So now I am in this directory, and here I'll create my first lecture1.py file and paste the code in here. Now if I run this, I'll get an error. See, no module named pyqt5.qt-widgets. Now you might be tempted to copy this entire thing and try to install it in manage packages, but you don't want to copy the thing after the dots, so that part is not the package. The package, the extension is this one here. So I'll copy pyqt5, just that, go to tools, manage packages, and paste that in there and search on PyPy. So pyqt5, you want to install that one, not pyqt6, because your program, or at least my program, is using pyqt5. So perhaps ChatGPT will produce a program using pyqt6 in your case. So in that case, you should copy pyqt6 from here, just like it shows in the shell in here, and then install pyqt6. So whatever the program is using. So I'll go to pyqt5 and install it. Close the window, the installation was successful, and run the program. And once you run the program, you should see this window, right? So that's the GUI, the desktop GUI. Now there is room for improvements here to the interface. So these buttons, these two buttons are a bit too close to each other. But let's try its functionality. So 10 for Celsius, and then we can press on convert to Fahrenheit, and you'll get 50 in here. Or if you write 30 for Fahrenheit and you say convert to Celsius, you'll get this. So if we want to improve the program a little bit now, we might want to close it, go to ChatGPT and report the problem. The program you built has the two buttons too close to each other. Rewrite the program fixing that issue. Press enter, and ChatGPT should be able to give us the updated code and also an apology. Well, maybe the apology didn't come, but anyway, at least we get the code. So the generation of the code was completed, so I'll copy the code. Go to Thorny and replace that. So I'll run again. There we go. Yeah, it looks better now. We have the two buttons. So Celsius 10 convert to Fahrenheit, we get 50. So that's a neat program to convert from Celsius to Fahrenheit and vice versa. So ChatGPT did a good job here. And thanks for following this. I'll talk to you in the next video. Hi, in this video we'll not be building any new program. What I want to show you in this video is the list of popular widgets you can use in a graphical user interface. So for example, a button is a widget, but there are other widgets as well, which I think it's good for you to know so that you know what queries to write when you're communicating with ChatGPT. So this picture is a screenshot of a desktop GUI, and this contains all the popular widgets. So let's start from here. Style here. Style is just a label, so a label widget, which means if you want to tell ChatGPT to add static text to the GUI, you want to say, give me a label widget with value style, for example. And then we have this widget here. This is a drop-down list widget. So this will have multiple options that the user can expand here and choose one of them. Then we have checkboxes such as this one here. And this one is in here, disable widgets and use style standard palette. These are two checkbox widgets. Then we have radio buttons. So in these here, the user can only select one of them. And these are grouped in something called a group. Then we have another group here. Here we have two types of buttons. We have a default button. This is a popular button, which can be pressed and something is executed. And then we have a toggle push button. So with toggle buttons, the button can be either on or off. So the user can press it and then they can release it with a second click. Then we have tabs. So this area here is a multi-tab area. We have a table tab and we have a text edit tab. So when the user is in the table tab, they can see this table widget. So we also have table widgets to show data. And then we have text edit widgets. You know, this is simple. I'm not showing that here, but this is just a white area here where the user can enter multi-lines of text. So a text edit widget. Then we have input widgets, which can be simple input widgets or password input widgets. This one here happens to be a password input widget. So with password input widgets, when the user enters some text, that text is displayed as hidden text. So as you see here. So if you tell ChatGPT create an input widget, it will give you a simple input widget where the text will not be hidden. If you say give me a password input widget, then the text will be hidden. Then we have date time input widgets such as this one here. So in here the user can select a date and time. Then we have sliders such as this one here. the user can select a value by sliding this handle here along the slider. And lastly, we have progress bar widgets. So this usually is used to show the user that a process is running. So to make the GUI more user-friendly, it's a good idea to show a progress bar for processes that take more than a few seconds. And yeah, that's about the most popular widgets. So thanks for following this video, and in the next one, we'll build another program. I'll see you there. Hey, welcome back to building yet another program with PyQt and Python and ChatGPT, of course. So let's begin the query. This will be an Excel viewer GUI. So I want to create an Excel file viewer desktop GUI app. That's the first sentence we want to have. And then we want to give details to this app. In the app, users can browse an Excel file, if you know what I mean. So there will be a button where the user can locate an Excel file in their computer, in their file system, so in their computer basically, and press a view button. So I'm giving this button a label already, a view button, the view button. So after we tell ChatGPT that we need a view button, then we want to specify the behavior of that button. The view button should display the data of the Excel file in a table view widget. So we have a button widget. You can also say a view button widget, but that's unnecessary, so you can just avoid the name widget. However, for some less popular widgets, such as a table view, you can be more explicit and say, oh, I want a table view widget. A button, though, is very popular, so no need to say widget there. So the view button should display the data of the Excel file in a table view widget. And that's it. So build me a program for that using PyQt and Python. Execute. So ChatGPT here will use PyQt5 and also pandas. So we will need to install these if we don't have them already. Now, if you followed the previous sections of the course, we did work with pandas already, so that means you might have it installed, but if you don't have it, I'll show you again how to install pandas. So don't worry. Let's see if the code has been completed. Not yet, so let's wait. So there we go. If we get this block starting with if, that means the code was completed, so we got the complete code. You also know that the code was completed when you get this other description here. So I'll go up here and copy the code, go to Thony. I am inside section 5 directory, and I will create a new file here, lecture2.py, paste the code there. And now, if I run this script, if you get an error which says module pandas is not installed, then you want to go to Tools, Manage Packages, type in pandas here, and install pandas. Then run the script again, so run the program again. If you get another error which says something like dependency OpenPyXL is missing, then you want to copy that OpenPyXL and go here, manage packages again, paste OpenPyXL, search, click on the OpenPyXL package and install it. I didn't get those errors because I already installed pandas and OpenPyXL in the previous sections of the course. So, but I got this error. It happens. In that case, you want to complain to ChatGPT So you copy that error, the last line, and you say, your code gave me this error. And below you paste the error and press enter. You'll get an apology probably. If not, don't worry. So now ChatGPT might give you the complete updated code, but it could also tell you what to change in the code. So if you got the updated code, the entire code, then you want to copy that code and replace it here. So delete this one and put that other code. If you get this kind of response where ChatGPT is telling you what to change in the code, then you want to be a bit more cautious with the changes you'll do, but I'll show you how to do it. So let's do this together. It says add the following import statement at the top of the file. So this is quite clear, I suppose. You copy that code, go to Thonny, and at the top of the file you can put it here. So paste that line there, right? Just like that. You can have a break line or you can delete it, it doesn't matter. Break lines don't do any harm. So either way, I'll just leave a break line there. Then ChatGPT is telling us to replace a line center with a line center, which look exactly the same. So I'll not be doing any changes here. ChatGPT seems to be suggesting something that doesn't make much sense here. So what I'll do is I'll go here and run the code again. This time we've got the correct output. So let's give it a try. We have this area here which should be where the data will be displayed. So I'll go to browse and locate an Excel file. In my computer you can find an Excel file attached in the lecture resources if you don't have one. So mine should be in section 2. Here I have a file, merged file, XLSX. Open it, press view, and yeah, these are the data. So in my case I've got this nice table where I can expand the columns. So this is exactly what I wanted. So on Excel viewer, I can view an Excel file here. So this is working just fine. And that's how you create more complex programs such as this one here, which does have some extra libraries such as pandas and the open PyXL dependency. So all these libraries are working together to make one single program such as this one in here. So thanks a lot for following. I hope I've helped you and good job. Thanks.